back, guys. Thanks for tuning in to the latest edition of Terrible Towel Tuesday. I am your host, SimFBallCritic, and let's talk a little bit of Steelers, shall we? Now, you guys see what I'm talking about in the title there, and we're going to get to that, but let's discuss a couple other things really quick before we go down that road. All right, now the first thing I wanted to talk about, guys, is James Harrison. Yes, James Harrison, guys, Debo, the Silverback, whatever you want to call him, he has decided to retire. And I think, hey, it's probably time, man. He'll be 40 years old next month, rather. And I get it. How long do we expect him to play? I think he's had a phenomenal career, going from where he came from Kent State, coming into the league undrafted, if I remember correctly, and, bouncing around a little bit, and then he lands in Pittsburgh, and we all know the history in regards to Pittsburgh. Now, I will say this, I know some of the fans, you guys have some, a bad sentiment towards James Harrison and a bad taste in your mouth because of how things played out, him going to the Patriots and such. But at the end of the day, man, I think the fans are being a little too harsh on James Harrison. Think about what James Harrison did for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who he was for the Pittsburgh Steelers as a leader, and how he played on the field and setting records and things of that nature. And one of the most incredible Super Bowl plays that I've seen in Super Bowl history, not only Steeler history. Who could forget the interception and return for touchdown against the Cardinals? I mean, one of the most iconic plays that you'll see in a Super Bowl so far. We cannot forget that. I understand what happened at the, near the end of the season. I understand it from the Steelers standpoint. We needed depth because we still were, not too great in the outside linebacker position. You got a rookie in TJ Watt. He starts to come on, so he gets more time. And, Bud Dupree was still trying to invest in him. I get it. Could we have used James Harrison in, a few more situations? Perhaps. We saw it against the Chiefs. Maybe we could have used him in more rush situations. But understanding that the Steelers are doing different things with the linebackers, dropping them in coverage and such, James Harrison couldn't really fit that bill. But I still feel like there may have been opportunities to play him a little more, and if you weren't going to play him, maybe release him a little earlier. And I get it. I get why they released him when they did. But at the same time, man, you got to look at it from James Harrison's standpoint. At that point, he's probably realizing, listen, I'm at the end of my road. I'm trying to win another ring. The time he got released, obviously he's going to go to a Super Bowl contending team. And who was left? The New England Patriots. I mean, let's face it. That was a perfect place for him to go. It almost happened. It didn't. It is what it is. But like I said, I'm not going to hold that against James Harrison. What I feel for him as a Pittsburgh Steeler. I was a little upset at first. Just didn't like him going to the Patriots, in lieu of what actually happened in the Patriots-Steelers game. But it is what it is, man. And, like I said, once the smoke clears and things settle down, much respect. Salute James Harrison for what he was as a Pittsburgh Steeler. And, it's time. He says that, he's missed too much, referring to his family and children. I get it. It's time to go ahead and walk into the sunset. Hope he has a, great life going forward. All right, now the next thing I wanted to talk about here, guys, let me grab my notations here. Now, let's talk a little bit about Leighton Vander Esch, okay? Now, there was a report that came out yesterday, basically saying there could be some medical issues, but then the report was debunked rather quickly, saying that wasn't the case. Here's my thing. They claim that he has some medical issues and he may have fallen for some people's board. And, if you think back where we heard last week that the Titans were saying that they were not going to bring him in for a pre-draft visit because, they're expecting him to be gone. I did some more research and I did find out that, Vander Esch did come in for a pre-draft visit with the Steelers, so I didn't realize that. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know which story to believe, but I understand that, it's football, guys. Guys are going to come in with a few injury concerns. That's how it works. I mean, look at TJ Watt. TJ Watt had injury concerns. We still took the guy in the first round. Things have worked out for us for him, so far in his rookie season. So it is what it is. I'm not going to really hold that against the player unless it's, injury after injury after injury. But and then again, you just never know. You never know what's going to happen when they get into the NFL. It's always a risk. Because even if a guy hasn't had an injury situation. You don't know what's going to happen once he gets in the league. So I'm not going to hold that against Van Der Esch. But I'm starting to still feel like, man, he might not be there. Even though there's still a lot of mocks that have Van Der Esch going to the Steelers, I'm not comfortable that he will be there when the Steelers pick. Now, obviously, if he's there at 28, I think you go ahead and take a chance with him. You know, he's a freak of nature. I've said this in several shows already, but we'll continue to repeat this stuff, you know, as we're getting closer and closer to the draft. He's a freak, man. You know, and he's a prime candidate for what the Steelers look for when you look at SPARQ scores and how he performed in the combine. You know, an underclassman, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's a junior, right? You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. But this is what the Steelers look for. You know, they like the younger guys and some of the guys that got raw talent, shows ability, like TJ Watt. He was a one-year starter. And TJ Watt has, you know, shown that he could be special. You know, it looks like he's going to be a special player. We'll see what happens from here. But I don't know. I don't know where to go as far as Van Der Esch. So what I want to do, guys, is talk about a couple other players that I spotted, you know, with the pre-draft visits, looking at some of their tape. And, you know, I'm going to give you guys a homework assignment, and we should have some fun here in the comments. If you look at the guys that the Steelers have brought in so far, I want to hear who you guys think the Steelers may take and what round. Because the question is, I don't know if we're going to draft an inside backer in round 1. I do know, and I strongly feel like we're going to address the inside backer at some point. Looking at all of the guys that they brought in, I mean, they're heavy. They've loaded up in the linebacker and inside linebacker. If I'm not mistaken, they've already brought in 8 guys, you know, before the draft. So it's leading the charge as far as the amount of players in one position. Clearly, they're interested in inside linebacker, and also it looks like they have some interest in safety. They've brought in 3 or 4 safeties as of now, if I'm not mistaken. I know Marcus Allen has visited, Justin Reed, another kid, I can't remember his name, but there's somebody who's actually meeting with the Steelers today. If I remember, actually, I was going to say if I remember, I'll take a look, but we can take a look right now because I just saw it. Give me just a second, guys, and I'll let you know who those guys are. Give me 1 second, one second, and I'll let you know that. Okay, it looks like who has scheduled visit for today. I already said Marcus Allen. And our linebacker, Matthew Thomas from Florida State. I'm familiar with him being a Nose fan. And also Tavarius Moore from Southern Miss. He's a safety. Not really familiar with him, but that's who's meeting with the Steelers today. Justin Reed posted on Instagram, I believe yesterday, or it might even been today, that he's in Pittsburgh as well. So there you have it. So yeah, man, clearly the Steelers are having, you know, good interest in safeties and inside linebackers, which is good. You know, like I said, we've plugged some holes with Morgan Burnett and John Bostic, but come on, man, you got to continue to build your depth there, and maybe one of these new guys can challenge the veteran for a starting spot. So I'm not mad at that at all. All right, so let's take a look at a couple guys here. Let me point out some things that we want to talk about really quick before I forget. Bud Dupree. Let's talk about that again, and I want to hear you guys in the comments. Do you guys think that Bud Dupree will get the 5th-year option? I'm kind of on the fence right now. I think the fact that, you know, the Steelers are taking their time announcing it, I really feel like now that we are about a week away, that the Steelers are going to wait until the draft and see who they can get in the draft in terms of an edge guy or, you know, something of that nature, what kind of depth they might be able to find there, maybe even with a UDFA. And, you know, I think at that point they're going to decide whether they're going to go with the 5th-year option. I think it might be in the best interest right now as of today. Again, I don't know what's going to happen in the draft, but as of today, I think it would be in the best interest, you know, to definitely go ahead and give him the 5th-year option, you know, as of right now, because we don't really have any other people behind him. You know what I mean? So we'll see. But anyway, let's talk about these linebackers that the Steelers have brought in already. So there's Chris Worley out of Ohio State. I watched his film. Darian O'Daniel from Clemson. Leighton Vander Esch. Joel Leibonui. I don't know if I'm saying his name correctly. Y'all know I botched his name last week, but he's from Western Kentucky. Jermaine Carter Jr. from Maryland. Malik Jefferson from Texas. I've talked about him. Darius Leonard from South Carolina State. and Matthew Thomas from Florida State. All right, so I'm going to address the guys that I would like to see them possibly go after, some guys that would be my favorites, whether it be first or second round or later in the draft, because a couple of these guys I'm going to throw out there could be later on. Now, I'm going to do it from third up to first, okay? So I have my number one guy, but I'll go all the way down to the third ranked guy. I didn't put this guy obviously in the pre-draft visit list because there's no indication that this guy has been brought in for a visit. But Uchenna Nwosu from USC, let's keep in mind the Lynn Swann connection. Same thing with Juju Smith-Schuster last year, right? You never know. He could be a guy that they jump out there and take, maybe early, but maybe a little later. And they have him projected right now as a third or fourth round guy. So being that the Steelers don't have a fourth round pick, if his projections are correctly, maybe they go after him in the third round. But let me read to you his strengths and his weaknesses. Now, this guy is actually set as an edge. So you'd want to keep an eye on whether or not they go with him at the edge. A couple other guys that they might go after, is Hubbard. And I forget the other kid's name, man. It slips my mind right now. But I know Sam Hubbard is another guy that perhaps, could be an edge rush guy that they might go after. But I think that Nwosu could also be moved inside. All right, so let's talk about Nwusu's strengths and weaknesses. Really athletic and loose lower body movement. Plays with instant stop-start quickness to put himself in position to make a play. Takes a hard dive down to the line of scrimmage from backside to challenge running lanes. Possesses good burst and overall speed. Hardy hitter, looking to run through the ball carrier and receivers with a thud. Expected to test well at the combine. Looks for opportunities to strip the ball. Looks fluid in his drops. Has 19 passes defensed over the last 2 seasons. And again, this guy is an edge guy. Couple weaknesses: lacks length and strength on the edge. Tackles can snatch him up and freeze him out once they get into him. Takes too long to disengage from the block. Struggles to hold ground at the point of attack. Motor runs hot and cold. A couple little things here like that I don't really like. They say can play faster but doesn't. Not a toolsy pass rusher and needs to develop better rush plans. Now, that's what makes me believe that he could be a guy that the Steelers take a chance on, maybe move him inside. Because if you watch him play, he's all over the place. He seems to be pretty decisive in his decisions and instinctive, but then again, I haven't watched a lot of him. I've just watched a couple of his highlights, watched a few pieces of film on him. And again, this could be a guy that the Steelers could definitely, see as a project. Again, the USC connection with Lynn Swann. There you have it. I'm just throwing a name out there, throwing one out on a limb. Keep an eye on him because, he is a guy that's been talked about. He's not being talked about as far as going early, but he's one of those guys that is making some noise in terms of, the draft experts and things of that nature. Now, my second guy here would be Malik Jefferson. We've already talked about him. Now, one other thing I didn't say about Nwosu, he ran a 4.65 in the combine, right? 6'3", 251 pounds. All right, so just think about those measurables as a guy being on the inside. Now, let's get to Malik Jefferson. Malik Jefferson is 6'3", 236 pounds, ran a 4.52 at the combine. And I believe he's projected to go anywhere between the third and fourth round, if I'm not mistaken. Let me make sure I have my notations here correctly. Yeah, I think they have him going in the third or fourth round. And let's read his strengths, okay? Built like an NFL linebacker with a long athletic frame and good musculation. Explosive with loose hips and good speed. Has ability to range far and wide for the tackle. Covers ground quickly when scraping. Can access his second gear when he commits to the pursuit. Substantially more productive when Texas put him in a position to think less and just play. I don't know about that. We need a guy who can think, right? Another one that here says has recovery speed to make up for slow diagnosis or mistakes in reads. Man, here are some of his weaknesses. Pursuit leverage is inconsistent. Runs himself out of run fits too often. The Don't like that. Needs to play with better knee bend, weights on second level rather than tilting downhill and bringing it to the blockers. Passive tack taken on blocks, ducks head into contact and allows blockers to swallow him, and etc. and etc. I'm not going to read them all because this is how I feel about college players, guys. They're all going to have some type of weaknesses. I mean, hey, NFL players have weaknesses. So you really want to think about what their potential is, what their strengths are, and what they could possibly become. So I don't try to beat these guys up too much on their weaknesses. I point some of them out because it's things that we want to keep in mind. So if they don't turn out to be great, you can go back and look at the things that were weak, and you can say, wow, that never did translate, and there you have it. All right? Now, my number one guy, after watching film, and I've watched film on all of these guys, I really like this kid, Dorian O'Daniel, out of Clemson, guys. I really like him, okay? Here's a couple things I was able to find out. He put up the best 3-cone and shuttle times in his position at the combine, okay? Dabo Swinney says he has DB speed and he has a linebacker's mentality. He covered a lot of slot receivers. Okay, he's projected to be a 5th to 6th round guy. So yeah, so I know now that I remember Malik Jefferson was projected third or fourth or second or third. I can't remember. I have to go back and look at that. But it was interesting, man, that Dorian O'Daniel was projected to be a 5th or 6th rounder. But I think here's the reason why. He's 6'1", only 215 pounds. So, you know, his body type will probably need to put on a little more bulk. But, you know, I'm thinking about him as possibly, you know, a guy who can play in the first year, maybe sub-package football, something like that. You understand what I'm saying? Because this guy, from what I saw, man, his coverage skills are pretty good. Pretty good. Not great, but pretty good. And the key thing that we want to, you know, keep in mind is the Steelers, I'm sure, will be looking for speed. A guy who can cover, you know, on the field as far as passing and also sideline to sideline, recovery speed, things of that nature. That's somebody that they're going to be looking for, because I'm pretty sure the Ryan Shazier, getting that type of guy, has spoiled the Steelers, our fan base, as well as the coaching staff. So you want those type of measurables. Now here are some of his strengths. Said he's a madman on special teams, and I saw him in an interview on Good Morning Football. He loves special teams. He loves it. That is definitely an attribute that the Steelers will look for, but you know, especially with a rookie. All right. He finished his career with 48 special teams tackles, and most of them on kick coverage. Has a gift for playing against kick return blocks and maintaining focus on the returner. Technically sound tackler. A technically sound tackler. Let's say it again. Technically sound tackler. Is that not something that the Steelers definitely need in their defense against the run game? Tackling. Possesses agility and lateral tackles against cutback runs, hustles to contain against perimeter runs, redirects routes with force, reads and squeezes from zone. Finished 2017 with 7 passes defense, including 2 pick-6 interceptions. Pretty good. Now, some of his weaknesses. He's just a one-year starter, okay? He has the frame of a big safety, but is an average athlete in space. So those are the kind of things, again, we got to work on, man, getting some bulk on him. But I like his, you know, I like his upside. It says pursuit speed is below par, often blocked by smaller slot players against spread rushing attacks. There you have it. He don't have enough oomph with him yet. You know, he doesn't have enough in the trunk. You know, he's a little slender at 215, you know, to be an inside linebacker. And it says he gives up separation when matched in man coverage and plays uptight and needs to do a better job of anticipating routes. So like I said, guys, all of these guys are going to have their ups and downs, strengths and weaknesses. But I'm telling you, if you go take a look at this kid's tape, I love the way he plays. And those are the guys out of the list that I read that I would like to see the Steelers go after. I don't know if it's going to be first round. I think maybe first round if, you know, Van Der Esch is not there and maybe, you know, Rashaan Evans is not there. I don't know. And maybe the Steelers pass the first round. And, you know, I think a lot of these guys will be available. You know, I think we could easily, I don't want to say easily because I don't want to disrespect these guys, but it's very possible that you could get a Malik Jefferson in the second round. You know, it's very possible that you might get Nwuzu in the second or third. Very possible that Dorian O'Daniel might be there in the third. You see what I'm saying? And I think he's one of the most versatile inside backers that I've seen just watching some film. But maybe slipping under the radar a little bit. All right, so again, out of the guys that I read earlier in the show, guys, as far as the inside backers, those are the 3 guys I want to keep an eye on. Dorian O'Daniel right now is a favorite of mine. Malik Jefferson is a close second. And then Nwosu will be interesting, man. It'll be interesting to see if they're going to go with an edge rusher. Because, again, we have to remember, we don't have a lot of depth. And Bud Dupree hasn't necessarily been Stud Dupree. You know, he's been more like Dud Dupree. So we'll have to see what's going to happen in that area. And, you know, safety as well. If that safety that you really love is there, could be the guy. You know, again, we all know, I mentioned to you a week or so ago, a couple weeks ago, Mason Rudolph could be the guy. I mean, we just don't know. But I definitely feel like looking at what they brought in, the Steelers have a high interest in inside linebackers. The question will be, which round will we get one? You know, we could get multiple inside backers, but what would be the round that they get that first inside backer? First, second, third, fifth. At the very worst, we have no 4th round pick. So we'll see. All right, so that's all I got for you guys, man. Let's continue to keep our eyes open. And, you know, we're getting closer and closer, man. I guess next week's show, you know, I'll try to lock down, you know, a couple of the guys that I think we may actually grab. And then, you know, we'll take a look on Thursday and see who we're going to get. All right, so that's all I got for you guys, man. Of course, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Cut on your notifications. Cut on your notifications so you're fully aware of the next video. And I promise, guys, it'll never hurt you to hit that like button. All right, before we get out of here, guys, let me get a here we go Steelers. And we'll catch you guys next week on Terrible Towel Tuesday. All right, y'all be good. Peace.